Hello, this is Susan with Colorful Expressions. Join me as we decorate a bullet journal cover. It's journal season. Follow along as I turn a plain tan journal into a steampunk-themed bullet journal. The rule is New Year, New Journal. So follow along as I prepare for 2025. I do bullet journaling, and I prefer dot grid journals. This one is a Michael's Artist Loft journal. I got it on sale, probably for $5 after January 1st. They all go on sale after the holidays. They didn't have very many colors, so I had to get tan. And tan's just not going to cut it. Plain journals are just not going to cut it. So we are going to decorate the cover something like this. This is my gratitude journal. I decorated it with gel plate papers and stamps. This was a tissue paper rose that I cut out. This was a mark making piece of paper, more mark making paper, some musical sheets, and just more mark making. And I just kind of kept it on a color theme. The tan gave me an idea, though. I have had this magazine. It's a city magazine, and I kept it for a year because I love the steampunk design. So I want to put this steampunk design and make a steampunk-themed bullet journal. Just the color tan, kind of like, well, looks, that's what inspired me to choose the steampunk. So this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to remove all the writing and just isolate the image, and then we'll figure out what parts we'll use. I wish I could use some of this wording, and I'm actually going to keep it because I might use it at some point, especially fall events. The year, not going to work, but and I'm going to keep the guy down here. I have a shoebox full of ephemera and just little bits and pieces of everything. So these are going to go into that. And just in case that's useful, we might need it. All right. So I want the clock to be the central part of my journal. And since I do keep track of the years, the weeks, and I kind of want it up high. So what we can do is tear it down a little bit. I'll put something else right across the top. I'm not going to use any words. I'm just going to have an image. And I think I'm going to let the clockwork part wrap around the journal. And then we're going to pick out some more papers to go with it. Here is one box of my gel prints and various papers. This one was created just as a mark making exercise. This is a gel print. I thought this copper would look really nice with the clockwork. This thing's so full, it's a little hard to navigate. I always want to use some music. And these are just gessoed pages, some gessoed music sheets. A good place to get these is at the flea market. I got a bundle about an inch thick of old, and I mean vintage, music sheets and booklets for $2, I think, is the most I spent on it. It was really a good find. Let's see. Got some cheetah print from this is from one of my stencils that I bought at Hobby Lobby. It's actually made for doing it on the walls. Some more mark making in gold pen and on paper that came out of an old book. If we want some gold foil, we've got that. I'm looking for things that are mostly in the tan, green, brown range. This is a stamp that I made. I actually don't know where it is, but when we make stamps, I will show it to you. This would be a nice border across the top or the bottom. And this was from a watercolor journal I made. This was my paper that I had under the under my work on my desk to protect my desk from inks and everything. And you could use any small bits of this and it would make a really interesting little piece in a collage. And you see, this is where this little piece of tissue paper is where I got this rose from. Black and white makes a wonderful, strong contrast. You may think, why am I sitting here painting black stripes on tissue? But you'll be surprised how strong it can be. You recognize this? This came from the same printing as this, and this is one of my favorites. I do like this one. I think I'll put this one in there too. Blue, let's see here. And you can make marks in any. This is just tinted gesso and white paint. It's a gold marker, silver marker, black marker. They don't look like anything for themselves, but yeah, like this. But used in small pieces in a collage, they really make an impact. Here's some roses. I think these are freehand that I did. This came from a stencil that I have, and it was only one part of the stencil, but I repeated it over the entire page. Oh, I like that one. I have some paper, or I have some fabric that reminds me of this. All right, let's see here. Pull that out. Can you tell I like metallics? Every other piece of paper has metallic on it. Wait until we do some gel prints, and you'll see me go crazy. All right, some just plain book pages that are tinted. These are great. You can mark on top of them or just use them as is. I use a little bit of both. Here's some more music. Here's another music page. All right, so don't pull out too much or you're going to be indecisive. It's kind of good to have a theme. So we have a steampunk greens and browns theme that we're shooting for. Now, you want to protect your inside of your journal. So I've got some wax paper here. And I am going to tape it on the inside of my journal to protect my pages, because this will get sloppy. Now, if you want to decorate, maybe later we may decorate the inside cover too. But right now, I am just going to tape it down so that, and we'll have to cut around the elastics. That gets a little bit fiddly. By the way, I bought this wax paper at an estate sale for 25 cents. I'm not even sure how much it costs in the grocery store, because I don't ever use wax paper outside of my crafting. But I saw it for sale, asked them how much, and I got some freezer paper and some wax paper. I probably have enough of both to last me the rest of my life, because it goes pretty, it lasts a long time. All right, so let's go back to our cover. I know it's the top because here are the bookmarks. And what we're going to do is glue down with, I use matte medium for all of my glue pretty much, especially since we're going to layer a bunch of papers. So I want the clock to be kind of in the middle, down a little bit from the top. And I'm not going to cut that yet, because we do want to wrap it around a little bit to the front cover. So let's take off a little bit here. You can tell I'm real precise about these things. Not. It might be a right angle, it might not be. I don't care. All right. And this, I'm going to let it wrap all the way around. All right. So it's good to dedicate a brush to your messy gel mediums and gesso. Gesso is easy to clean up. This stuff can gum. So you just spread it fairly thickly under where you're going to glue it down. And it takes a little bit of time to dry, but you really want to be fairly quick with it. And then you brush it on top as well. And now we're going to brush it on the inside. I will decorate the inside of the cover. So, and also brush the paper. And fold it down. This is messy work, by the way. I have a pan of water to my right and a whole bunch of rags. Did I bring one out for me? Of course not. Because this will make a mess. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around. When you wrap paper around a journal, it's best to do it while the journal is closed, because that's a maximum stretch. If it develops some wrinkles as it opens, that's okay. But if you put your paper on and the book cover is open, it's going to stretch and it might tear, because it's wet if you accidentally open it before it's completely dry. All right, peel that open carefully. Smooth that over. And by the way, this is freezer paper on my desktop, and if it gets full of paint or whatever, I will save it and put it in my ephemera box. I don't throw anything away. I struggle with throwing away junk mail. And it's like sometimes you have to remind yourself, hey, you've got junk mail. You don't need any more unless it's something different or has some cool design on it. I save stamps. I especially save things like flyers and things that I buy at or flyers and things that I get at museums, things like that. I'm gonna prop it up a little bit so that it can dry. Now I gotta wait for it to dry a little bit. All right, it's dried a bit. It's a little tacky on the back, but we should be okay. Now I'm going to decorate the cover first. I should have waited to glue the backside down and done the cover so that I didn't have to wait for it to dry. Well, live and learn. Okay. So, I've been looking at music, papers. I definitely want to use one of my just texts. This is from a book called Complete Stories of the Great Operas, and it has really small type. It's really nice for texture. You have to look at the books as possible art pieces and not that you're destroying a book. Trust me, I have a library of several thousand books, and it took a long time for me to be comfortable with tearing one up. And I still have only a very small collection because one book will last you a very long time. And I think I want to get some color down first, and then we can embellish from there. I really like this copper and polka dots, which mirror the clock. This is where the paper separated when I pulled off the gel print, but we'll just tear it. We'll just tear it and work around it. Well, when all else fails, it doesn't have to be. If you want the tear to show, then then the piece that you want to show, put on the bottom. If you don't want the tear to show, that should be the part that you're tearing. I'm not going to use the tear as part of my artwork. And I think I'm going to leave that just then, and I'm not going to let the white show, as a matter of fact, so we're going to tear around it. I bet you my ruler's hiding under all these papers, but let's get this done. All right. Have a little bit of overhang. I'm going to tear this down so that it kind of stops on the spine. So again, we don't have to wait for the back to dry. I'm kind of feeling where the edge is so that the edge of this print is at the very bottom. All right. Now we glue part of it. Just hold it in place. I like to use matte medium, I like to use matte medium. This is gloss because I bought the wrong product. I even checked my Amazon account, and sure enough, they shipped me what I ordered. I ordered gloss medium when I didn't mean to. But it doesn't look bad. This doesn't look shiny to me, so that's a good thing. And then we just make sure that all corners are down. And the spine. And see, there's some wrinkles coming up. You just kind of smooth them out, but a little bit of wrinkling is going to be okay. It's really part of the distressed look, the steampunk look. As a matter of fact, I've used crumpled up tissue paper to make a book look wrinkled and look like leather. Thank goodness for wax paper. Now let's do this edge. And we have a little piece here. We'll put something on top of that later. I want something different on the top. Where did I put that? I was looking at this piece. This is a stencil put on top of a book page. It's a book page, but it was blank. It doesn't have words on it. I think this would look really cool. Coming down to about here. Let's see. I want the edge to go around. And I'm not going to worry about the corner too much. So you'll see that this really won't go around. I'd rather have this across the top. And so it's like right there. It's on the floor. This one I do kind of want a straight line. Where's my tear? Okay. Give myself a little more room to play with. It's always good to put medium on both pieces. What you're gluing down, unless you're using tissue paper, then one's enough. I'm gonna have it all the way across here. See, up a little bit. There we go. Oops. If you have only gloss medium, you can also get clear gesso, which is dries kind of rough, and use clear gesso on top of your gloss medium if you need to knock back the shiny. And let's see if we can get this corner done. There we go. I have a whole bin of rags and washcloths that are only used for artwork. Because as you can see, I can make a big mess. All right. Smooth it down on top. I'll probably wrap something else around the spine. There's the base layer of our cover. Now we can embellish it a little bit. I'm looking for something that I can just tear a little bit off of. Actually, here we go. See these 3 gears? Tearing works better than cutting in this kind of, it looks better. I'm going to fussy tear in this case. I'm going to take all 3 of these gears. And I think I don't like that straight line down below, so I'm going to tear these gears into, take this little guy off. We can use him later. And I'm going to make this look rounder so that it doesn't look like it's such a straight line. Even if we take a little bit of the graphic off, it doesn't really matter. There we go. And I'm going to put those right there. All right, it's coming together. All right, and look at that red edge right at the bottom. I like that. Now, we do have a little bit of that white showing through, which I don't like. So we're going to use our little guy here and cover that up. And since it's on the edge, it's okay for it to have a straight line. There we go. Steampunk. I really love steampunk design. It just looks so cool. I haven't actually read a lot of steampunk novels, a few here and there, but they can get a little over the top. I do like them, though, if they're well written. If you have any recommendations, let me know. It's been a long time since I've read any, so I can't even remember what the titles are. My memory's awful, and I can't blame it on age. My memory's always been awful. Now, I want some more stuff on this cover. I want some of these. I want some of this music. And I have some, these are stamps that I put on deli paper. I love these clocks, these watches. So I'm going to somewhat fussy tear them. The paper itself will kind of fade into the background. And I do not remember if these were printed with archival ink or not. We're about to find out. I have some cheap stamp inks from Michael's, and I found out later that they were not water safe. So if you use anything you stamp with them, and then put a liquid on top, it'll run. But this one was done with my archival stamps. I've got like 4 or 5 archival stamps. I like that. Do we want a typewriter? This is a journal about writing. This is really my calendar, but you do some writing in it too. I learned how to bullet journal years ago, and I never could. Just like Ryder Carroll, the guy that invented bullet journaling, he couldn't keep to a pre-printed journal either, because if you skip a day, then the whole thing is ruined and you don't finish it. And I'm kind of the same way, same reason. Let's put it down here with our cluster of there we go. And it's okay that we didn't do a perfect tear, because it's just all part of the look. The thing about collage is messy is your friend, really. I'm going to take like a double bar here. I'll just if you have friends that do crafting, trade with them. I have a friend in Oklahoma City, and I went to her house one time, and we stamped all of her stamps, or a lot of her stamps. And this is kind of like this. I took sheets of paper that I use in collage and went through her huge stamp collection. She bought them when it was all these independent stamp makers before Tim Holtz and company owned everything. And so there are stamps there that just aren't even seen anymore. I am going to tear around that clock a little bit. And so I got a ton of interesting stamps to play with. Well, good enough. You hear rustling around behind me. Linus is here, laying down right behind my chair. I had him come with me because otherwise he might bark at anything that walks past the door. For a lab, he's pretty protective. All right. I think I'm happy with the cover. I think I'm going to leave it this way and clean up some of these scraps. Then we'll work on the back. Well, I messed up. I was drying. I have a hair dryer, and I was drying the book, and this edge came off on my thumb. And so I have a big old white splotch where I don't want it. So we're going to fix it. I went through my tiny scrap bag. I found a piece of book page. This is a super fragile old book. I mean, it just will crumble. I've got paint on it, so it's actually strengthened it, but I don't want the silver side. I'm going to just use a little bit of this edge that kind of makes a natural progression. See how it's a little bit darker on the edges? We are going to tear it. It's so easy to tear. This stuff's crazy. And we don't need a lot. And I don't want, there we go. And I'm just going to put it right up to the edge. I'm not going to try to make it bend because it won't bend around the corner. It'll crumble. That's one thing. If you're looking for books to use in journaling or in collage, those books, I have 2 books that are this fragile. And they were 25 cents a piece. And the thing is, you could take a page and just crumple it up and have word confetti, which I've used that before. All right, so we're going to put this in place. And since it's a little bit paler than I want it to be on the top edge, smoothing it around the corner, I am going to tour a little bit of my music, and I want to make it go around the corner. I don't want that much. So, right there. It's going to go around the corner. And it'll also mirror the music up top. And it's even right side up. It doesn't matter if your music or words are right side up or not. But since the top edge here is right side up, I'll put this one right side up as well. And someone on Facebook asked me if I was obsessive compulsive because I showed them a picture of my new art room. I had to laugh. It's like so far from it. This room already looks much messier than in the pictures I showed. It's only been, what, an hour or 2? There we go. Mischief managed. I have to be careful. I don't want to create any more tears. When in doubt, stop fussing. Just wait and let it dry a little bit. And I've decided I am going to put some paper. I will put a solid piece of paper on the inside cover to cover all of that ugly edges and stuff. I'm going to put some wax paper down so that it, since I'm working on the back cover, I can take this out. Whoops. I glued over my tape. No big deal. There, so if it gets sticky, it'll come up. So we've got some more steampunk. I really want to use a large amount of a book page. I think this one will work better. It's got bronze on it. And then we'll decorate around it. And I'm going to tear around the... pencil. I'm going to tear around the steampunk design. There we go. And I want to get rid of the paler edges. Come on. Now on the back, you don't want to have as much of a focal point like we did on the front. So you either use overall textures or bigger pieces. And I really just want to use the text, so I'm even going to tear off this edge of the book where there isn't any words. I'm going to snug it up in there. And we'll have some decoration on the back cover, but you don't want a focal point. So you can spread it out over the whole cover. You can do just smaller, repetitive designs. You have that huge clock on the front, so it's going to be pretty easy to tell what's front and what's back. And that's why you want to know what the front, whoops, I do want my text to be horizontal. There we go. Come on. There we go. And this type of book paper, since it's there on the back, it will absorb the glue and it will just seal itself to this book cover. All right. So you can actually use more glue than normal because it's just going to suck it right up. I like to just kind of smooth out the glue so that when it dries, it makes a nice texture. There's a little bit of texture from, but if you have like glops and thick spaces, it will show. So it's good to smooth it down once you've got your paper down. All right, we've got a little bit. Our front cover here isn't glued down all the way. Let's smooth that down, finish it up. I kind of like these stripes. This time I'm going to use the book edge and snug it up to the edge of the paper. To the edge of the book, the journal. If you have a really fragile book, like I was showing you, it has a really fragile paper, you can gesso it or paint a thin coat of acrylic ink or acrylic paint on it, and that will help it. I'm going to pull it away from the edge a little bit. That'll help it give it strength. Like I tried to tear that piece and it was a little more difficult. If I'd had just the plain one straight out of the book, it would have just crumpled in my fingers. I have to be very careful with those, but I love the really dark patina of the paper. All right, now we're going to work around. I kind of like this. It's kind of too pale. Maybe I should just save this for something else. It's just the color's not right. I've got tons of stuff, so I don't need to compromise. Could introduce another color. See, this one's harder to tear because it's full of acrylic paint. Yes, I'll keep that. Want a skinnier piece. And I'm going to go around this elastic. So I'm going to pull it to the side. And let's see, tear it right there. It's probably going to be turn into a mess, but let's see what we can do. And it's nice if you repeat motifs. Like we've got some stripes, so I'm adding more stripes. On the front, we have round shapes, gears, and clocks. Repeated. It's just a good rule of composition. And try not to be random, kind of put them in a nice triangle or something. Yeah, we have a straight line down there, but you know what? I'm just going to put something on top of it. And I need more glue. I'll probably get a little bit of glue on my elastic, but that'll be okay. I know it looks like a hot mess right now. That's okay. It all has an ugly face. Whoops. Oh, that's my pocket. This journal has a pocket in it. So I guess I can't put paper on top of that. All right. Let's put this up again. And then I'm going to make a jagged edge. Do the other side. So thinner. It's easier to put the medium on the piece of paper in this case because of working around that piece of elastic. I'll lift it up, slide it under, right there. There we go. And hope I didn't just glue it down. Now, another thing you can do with the edges, if you don't want the edges of your book to show, you can pull out some acrylic paint. And I may do that for the back because I've got this pocket to contend to, so I can't really fold everything over. So I'm going to glue everything to the edge, and then I'll pull out my acrylic paint, and I'll just kind of feather in some edging to cover up the journal. And you don't always have to cover up the journal. It's really up to you and what you want to do. Okay, we're not sticking to the ground. That's good. So let's put in some more color. Here's another gel print of mine. I think that's a zebra stripe, but it's copper on top of brown, or bronze on top of brown. So you can barely see. My fingers are getting sticky. Oh, and this is toilet tissue. I buy my toilet paper in bulk, and it's individually wrapped, and this is the toilet paper wrapper. You can see kind of the design. But now that it's got acrylic paint on it, you can't really see. There's even some printing on there, and you can't see that either. I'm gonna just... If you go from the back, then you won't have that white line. Okay, that wasn't a good tear, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to tear off this white edge. Now, I promise I'll clean up my desk after this is over. Otherwise, the cats will get up here and they'll have colored paper sticking to themselves. There we go. Now, how much? I don't really need that much. I'm going to do a slope. And see how this almost looks like leather? Because the tissue paper had its own texture on the gel plate. There we go. Now we need to tear up and around the elastic. There, we're going to start right here and glue that on, and we'll just glue the other piece on like we did at the top. That was much easier. Don't struggle too hard. If it's not working, figure out a different way. This should be fun. If it starts to get irritating, step away for a minute. All right, I'm going to line it up with the bottom edge. Smooth it down. Put glue on my corner. And with tissue paper, you only need one layer of glue. The one on the bottom is enough. It's gonna be in place. All right. Gotta clean off my fingers. They're getting sticky. All right. Let's see here. Can she do this? Or is she going to make a mess? All bets are off. Well, making a mess is a given, right? This is messy business with this matte medium. All right, there we go. It doesn't matter if there's a tear in it. Okay, we got it. Now the top. Let's get this tape off of there. And I'm going to use the same just to give it a little bit of consistency. It needs to be straight. If you want to just tear off a little bit, then put your ruler on top of the small piece and hold it down real tight. Because if you try it the other way, you're going to tear this into little bitty pieces. Go away. Just a little bit. Isn't that right? I don't know. And I don't need, well, this one can go around the front because I've got that exposed piece. So right there. Let's see how much of the front we want. So we've got that clock. Got to be careful with that. So I'm going to tear around it so that it doesn't tear, it doesn't cover up my clock. There we go. How's that look? Ah. Come on. Glue is making it slippery. It's wanting to buckle up on me a little bit. There we go. And see, that covers up that raw edge. Keeps our clock intact. There's a little bit of texture from the tissue paper. You can't get rid of that. That tissue paper will always look and act wrinkly. So just be aware of that, and that's just how it's going to be, and that's how it's going to behave. And that's okay. You just, if you want smooth, use a paper that's a little thicker that won't buckle, and use a smoother paper. But I used book paper. This was newsprint. So all of these had some texture to them already, and that's fine. All right, so when I look at it, these are kind of standing out like a sore thumb to me. We can cover them, we can color them, we can put a motif on top. Let's see. This piece has some more gears on it. Let's use that. We'll also tie it in with the front cover. And it's small enough, it's not going to look like a focal point. I've got a little bit here already. Yeah. That also reduces some of the black and white, or the black stripes. Make sure and clean these brushes thoroughly, because this will draw into a solid piece if you're not careful. There we go. Now we can embellish, we can paint. I think pretty much done with gluing. The thing is, you just keep fiddling with it until you like it. If you don't like it, change it a little bit. Something will, because you know, if the whole thing looks horrible and you're really not happy with it, you can always paint over it and start over. You know, nothing's permanent. This was a $5 journal. It's still good on the inside. Like I said, you could gesso it, you could paint over it, you could paint it a solid color if you want. So don't be too upset if something goes not to plan. There we go. Do I have any more of that? Where did I put? Ah, here it is. So, because this is kind of standing out to me, I want to put some in the bottom corner. To mirror it a little bit. Okay, not that much. I'm going to put a little bit less. Just to give it a little bit of repetition. Since that blue is the only place where blue like that shows up in the journal. There we go. And that's, like I said, that's kind of what you want to look for, a little bit of repetition. We've got the gears, we've got stripes in a couple places, we've got color, and this green goes with the green of the magazine cover. So you're repeating elements, whether it's color, texture, shape. Do a repeats, and it will look more harmonious. We're going to let it dry again, and I'm going to clean up some of these papers and look through my stamps and stencils and things and see what we can do to add to this. I also have these little charms, and I may find one or two, well, three probably, to glue to the front cover. And I'm also going to tie them to the bookmarks. So I'll be back in a little bit after this is dried. Our back cover is relatively dry. We're going to embellish it a little bit and put some stamps on, maybe some stencils, and we will be finished with the cover. First thing I wanted to do, even though it's going to make it sticky again, I found my little man, and I'm going to put him right about there. I think he'll just add a nice touch. And here's hoping that the cats do not start meowing for their food. They usually start bugging me about noon, even though we don't, I don't feed them until evening. They think that they always need to be fed. Yeah, right there. Well, it kind of covers up. Kind of blends in, doesn't he? Shoot. Here we go. Put him up there. I cleaned all my brushes, washed my hands while this was drying. This brush was a gummy mess. There we go. Okay, so I pulled out some stencils and some stamps. I don't have a lot of steampunk themes at all, so I have this big thing that's a giant clock, which of course we're not going to use. We have our clock on the front, but I'm going to use some of the gears that are in here. And then this one has some gears here. I'm not going to use the pastimes, but I'll use the gears. All right, this big old gear, I kind of want him right there, just this part, since that goes over the, I have a whole jar of makeup sponges, and they work really well for this. There you go. And I'll try not to make a mess of myself, which usually happens. This is going to be kind of subtle brown on brown, but that's okay. We don't need to. Now this round one here, I'm going to put on that striped guy so that he's a little more, see here and there. This one's going to go in this corner. Think about going off the page. That's why I use these corner pieces, because it looks like it continues around the bend. Let's see. These big ones are kind of awkward. Just going to have him go around the corner here. Just to bring more of the steampunk, because this is kind of dark. You can see the gears here. Let's add more of a gear in the corner. Don't want to get into the man's head, but there we go. And since we've got two, we need a third one. All right, down here. There we go. Doesn't have to be, oh, and I have a big pan of water to my right. I immediately put my stencils into the water, and then I'll clean them off after. So, do I have anything interesting here? I think I've got enough. I don't really need to stencil on the front. A little one. Maybe just put some little ones right up in the corner. Because this cover's already got a lot going on. We don't need to get too involved. And the one in the lower corner to balance it out. Just this little guy right here. And that's it. Like I said, I don't want to overdo that cover. It's already got a lot going on. And then we've got some white bits. I'm just gonna go over it. can do the edges. Like I said, this will dry and it will not come off. Whoops, of course I put my fingers in it. That's okay. Let's see here. Here's those bare spots, so let's do the edge. I was looking through my stamps and through my stencils, and I have very little steampunk stuff. I guess that great big one is the only one. I'm not sure where they're from. They're definitely not any name brand. They're not Tim Holtz or any of those or Stampington. It's probably, I bought a lot of them on sale at Michael's and at Hobby Lobby. I did like one Temu order, 1 or 2 AliExpress orders. I think I mostly ordered washi tape from AliExpress. It was before Temu came out, actually. So I don't really order from anything right now. And actually, I am in use it up mode. I'm not buying anything unless I use something up because I have so many materials and I do not have an income right now. My husband recently passed and I'm going to be looking for a job after the first of the year. But I wanted to get this channel up and started and running so that there we go. I'll do the inside covers later. Now, so that I think is enough. I have a stamp. I have these typewriter key stamps, and I think I'm going to put 2025 on there because this is a journal, and I'll probably not finish it in 2025, or at least I started it in 2025. And always double check your stamps before putting it on your project, and don't get it backwards. Now I'm using these lines to line up the bottoms of them. I think I'll put it in the upper corner. And this is why it's handy to have paper underneath, because you can always test it. That's a little crooked. It's going to get ink all over me, but that's okay. How's that? That too is still crooked. Come on. Okay. Finish is better than perfect, right? Let's make sure I did a 5, yes. I mean, I've done all kinds of things, like put these backwards, type 52 instead of 25. It's always good to test it. Yep, it's 25, although it's a little bit. Okay, they're kind of far apart, so I need to do that part. I'm going to stand up to see. There we go. There we go. Hey, I am pleased with that. All right. Here, let's get rid of this little. There we go. All right. So now I have a steampunk journal. It's still a little sticky. It'll dry in 24 hours easily. And then I'll put the inside papers on. I'll show you the inside papers in a future video because we're kind of running out of time. So there you have it. The Steampunk journal. I don't want to get my white paper all dirty with my inky fingers. All ready for the new year. So this is it. This is my steampunk cover. I hope you enjoyed this this video, and please let everyone know that there's a new crafter in town. Thank you.